Hello everyone. Welcome back to Fanfest, if it's not your first. It's been a year. It's Fanfest number what for you? 25?
Yes, 25.
Something like that. For me almost as well. As usual, I'm Ben Bone, alias CCP Bestman Ben. And this year with me on stage for this live concept art session, we have Burker Eriksson, who is a CCP nag, because he does. No, he doesn't. He expresses himself with a brush. Yeah, Burker has been around for, I don't know, how many years now? 10 years, actually.
Yep.
10 years. So it's his, maybe we could just applaud this decade of Burker's contribution to EVE Online. So Burker has been a concept artist on EVE for quite some years, and until he also took the role of art director for the EVE IP development. So he's very much involved in making all the nice books that you've seen lately and all the projects that are being made a bit around EVE Online itself that we've been working on for the past year or two. And so over the years we've had this session usually more about designing a spaceship and focusing on that, and we've thought this year, also because it's very much kind of Burker's speciality, to do something more about a landscape or a mood, getting a bit more abstract in a way and more defined about a spaceship. So of course you guys can be involved a bit in deciding and telling us what you would want to see and so on, but there is probably even less guarantee than usual that you will be heard. Not because of Burker, but just because of the theme that we want to have a bit this year. So I don't know, maybe you, Burker, you want to tell a bit what you have in mind?
Yeah, so I sat down, I think yesterday, and I did a short sketch, because I had no clue what I was going to do. And I made a few sketches, and I have sort of a sketch in mind that I want to try to make, and we only have like 45 minutes or 50 minutes, which is no time whatsoever. So yeah, I decided to make a sketch so I just wouldn't bore you by staring at a blank canvas for like 50 minutes and I have no idea what to do. So I'm just going to start by doing something very, quick and abstract, and then work from there, and we'll just see how it goes. And hopefully it won't be too boring. We'll just see what happens. So should we go? 3, 2, 1. Let's start.
Go!
Okay. All right. I'm just gonna start with.
So I don't know if many of you have already either on the stream or here at the Fanfest have attended those sessions, but if you have, it will be interesting to see a bit how some of the guys that we've had on stage before were more kind of drawers in a way, in the way they approach the concept that we are doing, whereas Burker in many ways is much more of a painter. So the result will, of course, be very different in that perspective.
Is it really dark for you, or can you sort of see? Yeah. All right. Yeah. So I had sort of in mind an asteroid field with maybe some spaceship in it, or something like that. I just have to see what happens. I'm just going to start by silly Photoshop. Start by doing like a small planet here in the background, just to have something going on. I'm going to try to sort of capture something quick, so you sort of have some sort of an idea what's going on. So this will be sort of space up here, and a planet down here. I'm really thinking just about the broad strokes at the moment. I'm not going into any detail, just thinking about general composition, nothing fancy. Let's see. Let's do a little bit. More color in there. yeah, like I said, I wanted to try to do an asteroid field. So let's try just to put something in here. Let's do that. Very basic. Again, one up here.
So what's interesting about those, what we often call mood paintings, and it's very often something that is being used at the beginning of a project or when we're trying to explore. It can be a new feature or just a new scenery or an entirely new project. And very often those paintings are gathered and they can be quite rough, but there is something about them that, I mean, they have like multiple levels of value. There is, of course, the thing that when you start to collect things that kind of communicate a bit the mood and the general idea of what we're working on, of course, it's inspiring for all the team and everybody that can be working on a feature or a project. But then also the other layer of value in it is that all the people that will be involved in this project, the more we create pieces like that, the more either by doing them or by looking at them and discussing them, you can start to see creative inspirations in them, but also technical details and thoughts very early on, actually. Now it's still a bit rough and early on this one to see those kind of things. But when it comes to even when you do a scene like that, or if you would design an interior, if you would design a spaceship, anything, as long as you put it in context of something, you give a lot more information about the scale of things, about the type of assets that will be needed, about the type of lighting that you would need in that scene, type of shaders, the effects, so all those things, and even, of course, on top of that, the color palette and the materials and so on. So very often it's a pretty picture, but it's much more than a pretty picture in the way that a graphics programmer looking at it will also see some things that make him start thinking about, hey, we're going to need this and that we don't have in our tools, for example, at the moment, in order to render that. And the other artists will start to think about how much work it will be to create maybe new planets, asteroids, spaceships, anything like that. So there are a lot of values in those mood paintings that are beyond just being a pretty picture. And I don't know actually if it's something that is even very conscious for someone like you, because when you create it, probably not.
I don't know. I just paint. No. I mean, of course, you have to think about a lot of things. When you're doing, sorry, it's really hard to draw and talk at the same time. It's like two different pathways in your brain. So I have to stop drawing while I'm talking. So it's probably not a good idea, because otherwise we're never going to be able to finish this. I'm not kidding.
Shut up and paint.
Yeah, I'll be your monkey. I'm trying to make a spaceship here. It's really abstract. I'm still just thinking about general composition, just very basic. And it doesn't really look like anything, and it probably won't for a while. I'm trying to keep a little bit organized here. So I have this on a layer, this on a layer and this on a layer, just to sort of help me later on so I can, change anything I want. And then at a certain time, that's maybe because I'm a little bit messy and I tend to mix up my layers and everything gets like a really weird. And at some point I just have to merge it into one flat image. That's usually how it works. And then somebody comes along and asks me to change something, and yeah, that's not going to happen. Use a small trick here that I learned the other day. Help me a little bit with the perspective.
And now Bürger just used a hidden trick in Photoshop. that he told me about a couple of days ago, and that is totally undocumented. I'm not kidding.
A little bit more. I always find it really hard to get these objects that have this like wrap around, because you're gonna see me struggle for a bit on this. Let's merge this. Anyway, let's think a little bit more about the background. It's really boring. I'm sorry if you're really bored. I enjoy watching other people work, but I don't know about you.
And one thing I didn't mention also earlier, talking about all the hidden value in those mood paintings. Of course, just the composition itself has also value, because a composition is kind of the dynamic in a picture, and it can also somehow give you an idea of the even the gameplay and the just not only the mood, but how it should feel to be in that scene, and what are the things that might happen there. You can give a lot of movement and a lot of dynamic information just through the composition as well, of course.
That works. Looks a little bit like a cloud layer.
It's very silent this year, so if you have any questions also about what we're doing there and so on, just shout them. I will repeat them in the microphone and we'll try to answer them. So the question was, how many layers do you have in such a composition?
Mm-hmm. I usually try to keep them as few as possible. But I have a few here, but there's really only like 3 layers when you think about it. It's like the background, and I usually just create a few layers, and if I'm happy with them, then I merge them down, and I try to keep, like I said earlier, I try to keep the elements separated. So for example, the background now is, you know, it's something, so I'm just going to merge it down here. And I usually end up with, you know, maybe just 5, 6 layers, but that depends also what I'm doing. There are some people that are really layer manic. I think like Reynir, the founder, our old art director, he usually ended up with 150 layers and these huge files, and it was called final, and then another one, final, and a final. Let's do a sun.
Do you use photos that you mix in your painting sometimes?
Yeah, sometimes. The only problem I find with that, it usually shows very sort of obviously, and it's a look I'm not really fond of. But I mean, I would be a fool not to use it, you know, occasionally. But no, I'm just as guilty as everybody else of doing it. It's great when you're building up texture, or if you're trying to figure out what to do, or just brainstorming. But I don't like when you sort of see it very obviously in a painting. It looks like a nuclear explosion.
Isn't that what a sun is?
Yeah,
right?
well, yeah. Technically. Like, do another one down here.
On that note, 2 atoms of hydrogen walk into a bar. And one says, "I've lost an electron." "Are you sure?" "Yeah, I'm positive."
That is so stupid. Okay. Sort of starting to work out. It's fine for now.
Just a question that comes to mind right now, just looking at you working on that. I know that you're a bit of a specialist of all the old masters, and you're very interested in classic paintings as well. He's going to say no, of course. Do you think that because of the nature of the subject, you have developed techniques that pre-science fiction painters would have not used or explored because of that, or there is no correlation?
I don't know. I mean, I picked up a lot of techniques using traditional media, of course. I started doing oils a few years back, and it changed a lot in my process. I'm doing a lot more smudging and trying to get sort of, my color mixing has changed a little bit. So I mean, I've learned something from that, of course. I'm not really a huge fan of the digital sort of art scene in general.
At the same time, that's where you started, right?
Yeah.
How many years before you started oil? After starting Photoshop?
I used to do a lot of acrylics in school. That was like 12 years ago. And then I sort of discovered Photoshop, and I bought this like really small Wacom tablet, and I discovered that I could do most of my work. Yeah, I was just going to use it for sort of color studies, and then I just discovered that I could just finish the whole thing and print it out, and I don't have to wait for it to dry or anything. And yeah, that was sort of I just fell in love then, and I think it's mostly just because I'm lazy that I use, Photoshop and digital art. It's a very easy medium. It's very cheap, but I mean, it's the medium of the future. So, hold on, I'm going to try to do something with the ship. There's only already 15 minutes gone by.
Do you know what kind of ship it is, or should we ask the crowd to decide?
No. This is just a really generic sci-fi nothingness. I'm not going to be caught up in doing anything Eve related.
What is it, mining? Is it just flying by?
No. I was going to do a mining ship, but hang on, this will all become clear in a moment.
Sorry, can you talk a bit louder?
So sorry, if I understood the question, you're asking about my tools.
Yeah, the setup.
This is my brush set, and my 2 most used brushes is this round brush, and then this chalky something dry media brush, and that I'm very fond of. See, it looks like this. And then I have sort of over the years sort of accumulated brushes for just to add variety. You have these very hard brushes which are great for silhouettes. This one I picked up
Do you create all of them yourself?
No. A few I've created. I think the one I'm proudest of is this one here. And it's just a tree that I sort of cropped something from. And I use it as a smudge brush. And so basically, if I draw, and then I turn on the smudge tool, and I can smudge it down to sort of, just to sort of destroy the information and sort of get, softness into the edges. And it's just to sort of get a little bit more, it's a little bit like oils. So you just get that sort of, it's like smudging with a rag or your fingers or something like that. Just to sort of blend it a little bit. And it's just something I like using. So it's very, very useful when you're making clouds, or if you're just like getting rid of a silhouette, or just anything. Which is actually what I should do to this ship. Sort of get it a little bit. This doesn't look like a ship at all. I have a small picture on my phone here that I'm going to use as a small reference. Okay, let's try to get serious about this. I'm just trying to put a little bit of detail on here, so you sort of get the feeling of how it's sort of the direction of it. Just a little bit. So yeah, it's magic. So basically I just create a layer, and I create my element within the layer, just like that. And then I can use the transform tool to, do whatever. And if I duplicate this layer, and I do a transform on it, on this object, on the duplicate, and I move it whilst using the transform, and I can do anything to this. I can maybe skew it like this, and move it here. And then there is this thing here in transform that says again, and it's Shift Control T. And what it does, it just redoes the transform to the item. It basically redoes the same transform you have on your current selection. So what happens is that it goes back, but you kind of want to sort of keep your old one. So what you do is you do Control Shift T, but you do Alt as well. And this is nowhere. I haven't seen this anywhere in the help or in the Adobe help. But what it does is that it recreates your last transform. Let's try it again, and I maybe scale it up, and then I can just like it's just like array in 3D. And yeah, this was a small trick that I picked up from a friend of mine.
And it doesn't work with oil painting. That's where you use Photoshop mostly.
Exactly. It just makes me so lazy working in this medium.
When you do a very, very kind of rough mood piece like that, do you let some accidents guide you, or do you avoid them?
No. I just, I mean, it's like with everything creative, you just have to sort of, it's a very iterative process, and you just have to sort of see where it takes you. I mean, obviously you have to control it somewhat. It's like controlled falling a little bit. You have to sort of try to sort of, control some, yes. Like this. It really varies. For like a thumbnail, I try to do as many as I can, just with these like quick thumbnails, and they're usually simpler than this. I often do them in grayscale, just to sort of like get the ideas out, and especially if I'm working on something, a project with others, I try to like hash these out in a few days. I try to maybe make 15, like hash them out, and then we can just review them together, and they're often very abstract, and people are sort of giving me strange looks. What's this supposed to be? But sort of when we have sort of discussed, it's just to get the conversation going. And then for a finished piece, I usually spend 3-4 days on it. Depends on what it is. It can be anything up to 2 weeks. It really just depends. I mean, I guess I can show you some examples if you are interested. Let me see. Oh, minutes. I think I should have some images here. Here's an image I did. It was fan art for a computer game called Dwarf Fortress. I don't know if you know that game. Yes, I love that game. It's one of the best games I've played.
And it looks exactly like that.
Yes. So it's an ASCII graphic game, and this took me a while. I probably spent a long time on it, but like an hour here, 2 hours there. And if I would combine it all together, it would probably be like 4 days or a little bit more. And I think I even have the sketch for this. If you guys want to see, I have a early, this is early on. It's really bad. I'm pretty sure I had a sketch here somewhere. Just gonna super quick, here it is. This is the sketch I made for it, and I was really happy with this. It looks like shit, but at least I have it like planned. It's all like figured out there. Sorry? Yeah, no, it's not really a demon. It's called a forgotten beast. Yeah, and that was my inspiration for it. And it's usually randomly generated. It can be a giraffe with fangs, or an elephant that spits venom on you. It's very randomly. It's a very random game, and I just did some octopus thingy, something that's sort of ruining a fortress.
And that's a typical example of a a mood piece that gives you all the information that I was talking about earlier. Let's imagine that you would look at making a scene like that. You see all the materials, the color palette, the effects, the lights, all the objects that are in there. So you have all the information on top of just being a nice, dynamic, inspirational piece as well. And your brain is just filling in all the blanks. As soon as you will take the picture of the screen, you will remember probably much more than what is actually in that picture. And that's the whole value of a well-done mood piece, is because it's much more about suggesting than defining something.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And there's a few sort of hidden Easter eggs here. There's a cat here. There's 2 cats, and it's very common in this game. If you embark or you start creating your fortress with a few cats, they start breeding very quickly, and you get what's called a cat Splosion. And you just have cats running all over your fortress, and the only solution to get rid of them is to start butcher them. And the dwarves, for some reason, really like the meat, so they start eating the cats. And there's also some ASCII graphic hidden here, up here in the. Well, it's just some geek stuff.
So this asteroid belt.
Yes, you know. Yeah, but so I just want to go a little bit back to the question how long it usually takes to work on something. This took very quick. It's probably like 3-4 hours, but it's very like, you know, it was just an idea I wanted to sort of get out of my head. This was done for a cover, Eve cover, or a dust cover, and I remember doing a sketch for this in half a day and then finishing it in, I think, 2 days. And yeah, there's a lot of stuff here. This here took longer. This was a matte painting for the trailer last year. And I had to go much more into detail than I usually do. And we had to also sync up some 3D stuff. And yeah, so it was a bit of a, back and forth. Yeah. There's some more stuff here. It's like, yeah, I don't only do like sci-fi. I only also like doing Western stuff, or just something. It was inspired by a Miyazaki movie. It was Nausicaa, A Valley of the Wind. As a samurai. This was 10 minutes, I think. This is also probably like half an hour. This one took me a long time. I think I don't know why it took so long. I spent a long time on this. And then just the other day, I like cropped a section from this painting, and I made a new one, which is much better than the original. And it's very like impressionistic. Yeah, wow, it's dark on the monitor. Let me lighten it up a little bit. Anyways, anywho, we're probably running out of time. There's nothing going on here. I'll try to be quick. Okay, I'm going to try to be a little bit organized. Okay, just merge this whole thing. I'm going to put 2 ships here very quickly, just to sort of help with the scale a little bit. Because as soon if you have something in the scene and if you have something that you know, if you have you always have to have a point of reference to show scale. As an example, if you want to represent something really big, you put something very big in front of it. So, for example, if you want to show a really big pyramid, you would put a mountain in front of the pyramid. Because then you have this like big pyramid and there's a mountain in front of it, and you know how big that mountain is, so that that pyramid is freaking huge. If that makes any sense.
That's why you put a cat in front of a giraffe octopus.
Yes, exactly. That's what I did.
Makes sense.
I'm gonna bear with me. This is gonna make much more sense in a little while. I'm gonna do probably a pink thing here. Okay, that's okay. Okay. Let's make this thing fly a little bit. And just gonna tear it up a little bit. Let's do a small. So this is also a trick we use a lot. This was a trick taught to me by Reynir. So back in Photoshop 5.5, you could do a color dodge layer and paint on it, and you would get this very beautiful. It's almost like how light reacts, physically correct. And then in, I think, version 6, they ruined this. They changed the math for the operation. So as an example, this is how it's now, and the way it used to be was, there's a workaround, and more like this. I don't know if you can see the difference. It's burning it's burning a little bit better in this one. And there are a few workarounds to doing this. And one of them is creating a group and making the group a color dodge and then putting a layer. It's a technical mumbo jumbo. And I use this trick a lot to make like engine trails. Let's do another one. Yeah. Push it a little bit further back. Okay, now you at least you see it's some sort of a spaceship. Perspective is all wrong. I'm just going to do a small change on this asteroid here. So light, we need to bring it a little bit sort of closer to us. So I'm going to darken it a little bit. It's so dark. Everything is so dark. It's much lighter on my monitor here. We should have some lounge music, so it's not so quiet. I don't see it. Yeah,
Question was, do you listen to some music when you're painting?
All the time. I listen to a lot to 80s pop. I listen to, I'm really fond of the new sort of retro 80s synth music that's been going on. Sorry? Yes, exactly.
It's quite funny actually, because Burker a couple of days ago was capturing some videos for me for the art panel that we were preparing. And of course, when you capture stuff, you capture the sound with it. So I had like minutes and minutes and minutes of video with with this wonderful pop soundtrack. And first I thought that it was on purpose and that he thought we should put that in that mini trailer. Fit it quite well though.
No, but I mean, just anything not with lyrics in it, I can listen to. So I look in movie soundtracks. I've abused the Lord of the Rings soundtrack, and also Tron, and just anything. I used to listen to ambience a lot, and yeah. So I like almost anything.
I just realized that you have 5 minutes to finish that spaceship.
It's never gonna happen.
I'm not kidding.
Yeah. Okay, what I'm gonna do, I'm just gonna, because I had this all worked out, and it's never gonna, reach a finished piece. I'm just gonna open up the sketch I had. That I'm crying. Yes, I'm gonna cheat. Yes. What I should have done, I should have just cloned stamped sort of the old picture into my new one, and sort of like working with trying to paint with an audience is almost. No, what's this? Excuse me?
Question being, could you finish that piece at a later point and put it in a dev blog or somewhere?
Sure. But I can also show you, I had it a little bit further on.
Okay, so how long did that one take?
This is about 50 minutes. About what I sort of
less talking, more music.
Less talking, and nobody watching me, and I'm totally in my sort of zone, working on stuff. But it's just
okay, it's just us, Burger.
Yeah, it's
5 million people on Twitch TV or something.
That's fine. I'm gonna brighten it up a little bit. But yeah, it's just this is a very sort of quick and dirty piece, and you have to be a little bit concentrated, of course. I know it's not fun watching somebody just like dabble around and try to create something. But it's just, I could actually just continue with this. What 5 minutes, 10 minutes we have. So what do you want to see? What should I add?
Spikes.
Spikes. Okay, I can do spikes.
We have a history with that.
Yeah. Okay, that's something I can do for you guys.
We can get Luli. No.
Do you want like spikes in the front?
Sorry, could you repeat? Is there a better place for spikes?
Oh, in front. Ah.
A back.
Ah.
I can think of a few.
Yeah.
Okay, so we have to repeat the question for the stream. So the question is about, you mentioned some changes in Photoshop feature, for example, and the question was, how often do you feel you have to change your way of doing according to the changes in the tools and softwares, right? Mm-hmm. That's pretty much the question?
Yes. So I'm sort of blessed with being just a 2D artist. I used to do 3D a lot more than I do today. And that was one of the things that turned me off about 3D, is because the tools and the tool sets and the programs, they're constantly changing. And with 2D, there really is just Photoshop. I mean, sure, there are a few programs out there that there's Painter, of course, and there's a few small programs here and there, but it's just nothing beats Photoshop. It's just such a versatile, easy hash tool to do almost anything you want, in my opinion. I mean, that's of course just my opinion. So usually with Photoshop updates, I just get more tools and candy to work with. So in my experience, I'm not, I don't have to do much. But what I should be doing is doing more like ZBrush and embracing 3D much more than I am doing at the moment. I usually just use it for block out, very simple stuff. Usually just because I just really want to get to the painting bit, you know, really quickly. So I might throw up something very quickly with a few squares and, you know, just general something. It's like that, like the image I showed you earlier with the Dwarf Fortress image. That's originally like a 3D Maya scene I created, just very simply. It's just to have a space, just to have a sort of idea of the space, and having the, you know, the perspective correct, and you know, all that. So, in my experience, you know, I don't really have much of a problem with it. But I know a lot of the guys at work, they're constantly changing their processes because of new tools, and I would have a really hard time doing that.
I believe we're running out of time for the next session to prepare as well. So I think that's it. Fantastic. 50 minutes plus 50 minutes. Right?
Sorry.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Sorry we don't have time for more questions. This all turned into almost more of a tutorial than a... But I hope you enjoyed it. I mean, at least. And yeah, maybe we can finish that a tiny bit and put it out in the dev blog, just for fun.
Isn't it finished?
Ship it.
Yeah, ship it. Okay.
Thank you. See you at the art panel and many other places.
And have fun at Fanfest.